Do you want to lose fat and build a tighter and more shapelier physique? Well, I'm going to show you exactly how to get a full body transformation. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure that you never miss another video. This is my first video. I'm so excited to have you. We're going to talk all things fitness and how to take your goals to the next level. Let's dive in. My name is Tijana and I've been in the fitness industry for 10 years. I am a personal trainer, holistic nutritionist, and now a fully online fitness coach that helps women achieve epic and lasting body transformations. So let's get into your body transformation. How do you get there? We're gonna talk about it. But the first thing I want you to know is this is not a quick fix.
Say what?
You are not going to transform your body overnight, even if you take everything in this video and apply it right now. The reason being, even when everything's perfectly aligned, it still takes time for your body to change profoundly. So please be patient.
Patience.
Doesn't sound very sexy, but that's how it is. Now that we have that out of the way, let's start with step one. So the first thing I do with my clients is typically go into a fat loss phase. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I can lose fat and build muscle at the same time, can't I? So yes, actually you can. Especially if you are a new lifter. If you're not typically lifting weights or not lifting very much, you can experience a phenomenon known as newbie gains.
Gains!
This means that you're gonna see profoundly faster results when it comes to building muscle and losing body fat than someone who's a seasoned or conditioned lifter. So this actually means the longer you're training, the slower your progress tapers off over time, which isn't so great, but if you're new, it's amazing. However, the reason I focus primarily on fat loss in the beginning with my clients is because typically most people want to lose excess fat. That's kind of where they start their body transformation journey. So the first thing you're going to do is go on a caloric deficit, but you need to consume fewer calories than what's required to maintain your weight at a very basic level. So you want to start off by setting a goal of losing about 1/2 pound to 2 pounds a week, monitoring your progress over time, and more importantly, you also want to use other tools like your body measurements and your progress photos, how you're feeling in the process, that kind of thing. When you've been in a fat loss phase for up to 12 weeks, maybe longer if you're going more conservative or if you have more weight to lose and everything's going okay. Again, this totally depends on the person, but when you get to that 12-week point, that's typically when you want to think about taking a diet break or going on a reverse diet. That's what I do with my clients, and that is step 2 that we're going to talk about. So you've been in your deficit, you're losing body fat. Inevitably, your metabolism will adjust because now your deficit calories are your maintenance calories. And what that means is the same amount of food that you're eating is now not helping you lose fat any longer. You can reduce your calories more, of course. Again, all these things are a little bit more nuanced person to person, but I'm just giving you an overview. But eventually, inevitably, at some point in time, things will tap out. You're probably gonna reach your threshold. Your training quality might start suffering. You're gonna be feeling tired. You're gonna be feeling hungry. And that's when you know it's time to boost your calories again.
Food!
So a diet break or reverse diet simply means bringing up your food intake again. Now, when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're doing it very slowly and strategically, because this is why most people regain their weight after going on a diet. A lot of us can lose weight like that. Like, you want to lose weight? Eat less food.
Duh.
But how is that actually going to last? How is that going to equal to better workouts and looking better? Okay, so you not only want to reduce your calories, which is pretty captain obvious to most people, but you want to be able to then increase your caloric threshold. Because ultimately, in order to get your well-rounded body transformation, you're not just looking to reduce your calories in the short term. You want to improve your metabolism. So when you go on your reverse diet, you're going to increase your calories gradually by increasing your carbohydrates. Typically, this tends to be on the lower end if you're in your deficit. I increase the carbs and the fat and then keep protein. I wouldn't necessarily reduce it, but I would keep it where it is. For both phases, whether that be fat loss or muscle building, which is coming up next, I would recommend keeping your protein intake at about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So we'll talk more about that in a second. Now let's talk about muscle building. So if you want to achieve a body transformation, one piece of the puzzle is the fat loss. We got that covered. And let me tell you, you could absolutely profoundly change the way your body looks by losing a ton of fat, especially if you have more fat to lose. But you're watching this video because you want that shapely physique. You want to look like you work out.
I work out.
If you want to look tighter, you don't necessarily need to be lighter past a certain point. So this is why it's super important after you've done a lean out phase, you've done your reverse diet, you brought your calories up, you're feeling better, your hormones are more stabilized, you're able to increase your effort in the gym. My typical suggestion and what I do with my clients is to transition into a muscle building phase. Now, you might be thinking that this sounds similar to doing a bulk and a cut like bodybuilders do. Yes, it is similar in the sense that like you're focused on fat loss or muscle building. However, I don't do anything too crazy when I work with my clients. Typically, we make all these changes very gradually because if you jump from one spectrum to the other, you're going to risk gaining body fat, which you don't want to do. You want to be gaining primarily muscle mass in that muscle building phase. So when you transition out of your reverse diet, you'll bring your calories back up and typically increase your training volume. So by the time you're entering that muscle building phase, again, although I've said all these things very close together, it's not like boom, 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 boom. You want to make sure you actually know what you're doing in the gym, quite honestly.
The truth.
I wouldn't put someone on a muscle building phase unless they have excellent form and they know how to gauge their working loads. Because the truth is, if you're increasing your calories and then you're not really improving the quality of your training or increasing the quantity of your training, and there's no rhyme or reason to the training, then you will be gaining body fat. So when you know your stuff, you know what you're doing, you increase your training volume, this is really when the magic happens. So think about where you want to build more shape. So typically with my clients, I look at their physique. We want to build what's known as the X frame. So that means we want the capped shoulders, we want the glutes, we want kind of like that hourglass shape. Well, like an X. Small waist because we're building up the shoulders, the back, and your glutes as well as your quad sweep. So that's going to add more shape to your body. Now, if you want to work on certain muscles within those muscle groups I mentioned, you're going to be aiming to hit them at least 2 to 3 times a week. I would say upwards of 3 times a week. So for instance, if I want to grow my glutes, I'm going to be doubling down on those or tripling down and putting less focus into areas where I feel like I don't want to grow as much. However, you still want to be hitting each muscle group at least once or twice a week for most of us, for a well-rounded physique and for balanced strength. The muscle building phase is the most fun in my opinion. However, it is the longest and takes the most patience. A lot of people go into this phase and think, I don't really like not being so lean, because guess what? You could be doing everything right and not gaining body fat too fast, but you still have to gain some body fat. There's no such thing as gaining just purely muscle, unless you're doing anabolic steroids. No judgment if you are, but just know that for the average person, you're gonna have to put on at least a little bit of body fat. So stay patient, train hard, track your strength, track, how you're looking, your progress photos, all that stuff, and stay consistent with the muscle building phase. I typically recommend the muscle building phase be ideally 4 to 6 months, maybe even longer. Now, throughout this process, remember when I said this isn't a quick fix? It's not. You are still going to be mastering your training quality, the quality of your movement, the load, all the things I just mentioned in the muscle building phase. That's a forever thing, okay? So even when you do a successful muscle building phase, you're still going to work on improving overall. So this is what I call training mastery. You've learned the basics, you're comfortable with training and nutrition, now you just keep getting better, even just 1% better. You're a conditioned athlete and you're always gonna work on making those small improvements. So let's say you've done your muscle building phase, then you can do a lean out phase or lean out a little bit for a photo shoot, for example. Maybe, if summer's coming up, you want to be a little bit leaner, that kind of thing. However, like I said, unlike the bodybuilding approach that tends to be a little bit more extreme, where a cut and a bulk are like 2 completely different things, how I like to work with my clients is the lean out phase is not hyper strict. We go into it nice and easy. We make sure that we're monitoring hunger sensations along the way. So in other words, you want to go slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
You don't want to go extreme because that way your fat loss is actually going to last. So typically you're kind of going to keep cycling between these 2 things more or less over time. So you could be focusing on fat loss during one period of the year or a couple times a year, and then the rest of the time you're primarily focused on muscle building. So you can also actually keep it more kind of in that midline. Think of it like a spectrum. So if you're focusing on fat loss, you can go very, very aggressive, go on a pretty steep deficit, do a more short-term fat loss phase, and honestly, that's going to be harder and less enjoyable, but you will see the fat loss happen quicker. And you could do a muscle up phase where you're eating more calories, you're eating calories for longer, you're really, really, really focused on muscle building, and you are going to gain more fat that way. But you might find that your strength is much, much higher and your performance in the gym is much better. And you're okay with being like down here and up here kind of thing, more bodybuilding style. However, we can also do something more midline. This is known as a recomp or body recomposition. So essentially, you can keep your calories at maintenance, and over time, your maintenance calories are going to become a slight deficit because you're building more muscle and increasing your metabolism. Metabolism is something that is always in a flux. It's never consistent. I say that because there's so many myths and misinformation about metabolism and fixing your metabolism and anyway, I digress. So over time, you're in that slight deficit, but you're more or less hovering in the maintenance calories. You're building more muscle. You're not going to be building muscle as quickly than if you were in a surplus. So, you're keeping yourself at bay. You're building a little bit of muscle, losing a little bit of fat. You're changing your body composition over time, but it's not happening with the snap of your fingers. Well, nothing happens at the snap of your fingers.
I wish.
But you know what I mean. So this is a great approach if you're someone who's more conditioned, if you don't like to fluctuate too much, and if you're more patient. To be quite honest with you, this is an approach that I like to take myself. My body weight and my leanness level doesn't really fluctuate all that much. I personally don't like to get super, super lean, and I don't really like to gain too much fat either. So this is my sweet spot. I would love to know, what's your biggest challenge? The training or the nutrition aspect? Let me know in the comments. And the final step of achieving your body transformation. It's really exciting. Be patient. That's it.
Be patient.
I did warn you in the beginning, it doesn't sound sexy, it doesn't sound fun, but I am not a snake oil salesman.
You're not?
And I'm not gonna tell you if you do all these things, you're gonna look like a professional bodybuilder next month. Or if you do one glute program, you're gonna have like the glutes that could grace the Mr. Olympia stage. It's not how it works, because even if all things are in place, and it takes time for all things to be in place, like you need to learn the form of certain movements, you need to get accustomed to putting it in your schedule, yada, yada. Even once all of that's in place, it just takes time. You gotta put in the reps, quite literally, so don't forget to be patient. If you found this video helpful, you're gonna love my Facebook community. Every day I make a post in there about how you can achieve your peak fitness. So make sure to join and you'll never miss it. Another reminder, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. It was a pleasure being with you in my very first YouTube video. We'll see you in the next one.